Hello everyone. This is Parth Patel. I'm a registered migration agent at Aussizz Group. Today we are here again in the Ask Aussizz session. So basically, we would like to get your questions and we would like to help with your queries. So I'll quickly go through what are the quick updates. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please post it here in the chat box, and then we'll be happy. We'll try to cover whatever questions we have. Please be patient. We'll try to cover most of the questions what we can. But in case if we are not able to cover your question in this session, then we will be commenting in the chat box there as well. So you can probably keep checking in the comment section for your response as well. About the quick updates, the program for state nomination has already started. Some of the state governments has already announced the program. That is, Western Australia has already started the program. Northern Territory has started the program. Victoria has announced the program 2 days back. South Australian state government just published the criteria yesterday. So you are saying that most of the state governments are coming up with the criteria, but majorly we have noticed that the criteria for state nomination under 190 and 491 visa is very similar to last year. So majorly it's very similar to last year. Very minor changes you might have noticed. So basically, if you are eligible, you should apply as soon as possible. Also, the state governments have announced that if you are not selected in the last year, then you are required to reapply for the application. Depending on the state, some states, they are still accepting your application if you have applied even last year. For example, if we look at Western Australia, they are still considering the same application what we have applied last year. But anyway, so this is the main update for state nomination. Now they have announced the program, but the invitation rounds are not started yet. So we are still waiting for state governments to select people. Once they start selecting people, we'll have a better idea how they are selecting people this year. But it seems that because the last year the requirements were, the current year's requirements are very similar to last year. And that's where we are very confident that the selection process will also be very similar to the last year. So when we look at Western Australian state government, we'll quickly go through the criteria for this state nomination. So Western Australian state government, they are sponsoring people as long as your occupation is listed under their occupation list. They are currently having 3 occupation lists called Schedule 1 list, Schedule 2 list, and general graduate stream. So if it is a Schedule 1 occupation list, basically the health occupations are listed there. That's where the people who are applying requires 1 year of experience in Australia or overseas to qualify. For Schedule 2 occupations, anyone can apply as long as your occupation is listed there. And for graduate stream, you require to be a Western Australian graduate student. You must have studied there for at least 2 years. Then you can possibly qualify under that category as long as your occupation is also listed under graduate stream. This is just the basic criteria. With that, you are eligible to apply for an application called EOI, Expression of Interest. Once you submit that, you are required to wait for them to select you. So they will be conducting invitation rounds every monthly basis. And depending on your location, depending on what did you study in Western Australia, depending on how many points you have, and when did you apply for your EOI application or date of effect of your EOI. Based on these many things, they will be selecting applicants. They are also seeing or they are also inviting people under certain targeted occupation groups. So if you are having occupation under specific occupation categories, for an example, if it is construction related occupation, if it is health, teaching, hospitality occupations, they are giving priority to such occupations. The priority means your occupation, if you have application under such occupation, then even with lesser points, most likely you will be invited. So we have seen last year when they were giving priority people with even minimum point 65 points were getting an invite. But that's about Western Australia. For Victorian state government, you are eligible as long as you are living in Victoria for 190 visa, and for 491 you are required to be living and working in regional Victoria to qualify. Your working in regional must be a job which is skill level 1, 2, 3. If you are doing such jobs, then you are eligible to apply. If you are eligible, then after you will be making an application for EOI, Expression of Interest, same as Western Australia. But on top of that, you are also required to apply for an application called ROI, Registration of Interest. And based on the details you have provided in these two applications, they will be selecting candidates. Now, about the selection, we have seen the priority factors for Victoria are very similar to last year. They only added one more factor called if you are working at a, depending on what occupation skill level you are working, based on that, they will be selecting people. So main priority factors for Victoria are that how much you are earning in Victoria, whether your partner, if you have a partner, whether your partner is also a skilled partner. Skilled partner means your partner has a skill assessment and 6 each. That is the first priority. Second priority is if your partner has just 6 bands in each in English test or holding passport from certain countries, then that's the second priority. And if you're a single applicant or if you have a partner but your partner is not skilled, then that's the last priority under this factor. They also look at how many years of experience you have in the relevant field and how much you have scored in English. Apart from that, there are other factors, but we have seen these are the four most priority factors for them. Other factors are what kind of qualification you have. Also, they have recently introduced a factor where they are saying that what kind of job you are doing. Sorry, what is your occupation skill level? Based on that, they are prioritizing. So if your occupation is skill level 1, for example, you are doing your occupation is like a mechanical engineer, then it's a skill level 1 occupation. If you're working as a, I mean, if your skill assessment is in restaurant manager, for example, it is a skill level 2 occupation. And if you are working as a carpenter, for an example, that is skill level 3 occupation. So higher the skill level occupation, higher the priority. So that's one of the priority factors they have recently added. But based on these mainly factors, they select people. For Victoria, they have received 300 more places for 190 compared to last year, and they have received 2,000 places under 491 compared to just 600 places last year. So I think 491 will be very easier for this year, because even when they had 600 places last year, they were inviting people so easily with even just one priority factor, what we have just discussed, still they were selecting people. Anyway, that was about Victoria. We'll move to next state, but before that, we got some questions, so we'll um, cover those first. So first question we have received is from Jagjit, who is asking what are the chances from Queensland for 491, 75 points under early childhood teacher. So Jagjit, as you might have already noticed that Queensland have received lesser places this year. Also, they have not yet announced the criteria. But basically, this is that you are required to be working in regional Queensland for at least 3 months. I hope you have already worked for 3 months in regional Queensland. If you already done that, most likely you'll qualify as per the last year. This year, if in case they change the criteria because they have lesser places, then it's a different story. But again, if you are meeting the criteria, if you have 75 points, I think the chances are still good, considering they are inviting teachers this year. Because sometimes it happen that they says we have a priority for some other occupations, and that's where they don't look at this occupation itself. Just an example I'm telling. But then the teachers are still prioritized in most of the states. So if this year also they would like to prioritize teachers, then it will be very easy. If they are not inviting teachers at all, then you will not be invited. But then probably when they start inviting people, when they announce the program, you will have a better idea. So can't comment much on that. But basically what I can say is the number of people applying under such occupations are comparatively lesser. The competition is lesser. So hopefully, most likely, you should be invited. The second question is from Mohammed, who is asking, I'm working in Victoria as a developer programmer, but my employer doesn't have an office. Can I claim my salary in ROI? So if your employer does not have an office in Victoria, then basically you are not eligible to apply. They must have office in Victoria. However, if you are saying that I'm working as a sole trader, self-employed, you are providing services to them, then you can possibly qualify. So if you say I'm working on ABN as a sole trader, then you can possibly qualify. Or if you are saying that you are working for a business located somewhere else in some other state, but if their clients are basically located in Victoria and that contract with that company in Victoria, they have a long-term contract, for an example, then you can try with that client based in Victoria to apply for a state sponsorship. They may be able to consider that. We have done that in past and they have considered. But basically, if the client is not based in Victoria and your business is also not based in Victoria, then straight away they will refuse your application if you can't prove that. In that case, it is better that you ask your employer that if you get a salary as a self-employed sole trader individual, then probably it might work out for you. So you may look at that. Suraj is asking changes to get 189 and 190 news. Okay, chances to get 189, 190 New South Wales with 70, 75 points from NEC category. But which NEC category you haven't mentioned? When will be the invitation round for New South Wales? Okay, New South Wales, they haven't announced the program as of now, but their program is very standard since last many years. So I think they will not have any additional criteria, most likely, and even they have received good amount of quota compared to last year. So most likely they will have the same program. If you are living there, you are eligible in 6 months for 190 and 3 months for 491. About the chances, because your occupation is not very clear, so I cannot tell you about that. Also about when the round will happen, I don't know because they have not yet announced the program. But considering they announced the program this month, hopefully they will start inviting people from next month. So depending on when they are announcing the program, we'll have to wait. But I think it's not that far that they will keep waiting because I don't think they are planning to make any changes in the criteria. Devansh is asking what are the chances of pharmacy technician in this year? Depends on actually the state where you're applying because different state have a different criteria. But for pharmacy technicians, it is comparatively easy because it's not too competitive occupation. But you have to firstly say whether your state where you are living, they are sponsoring pharmacy technicians and whether whatever their criteria is, you are meeting that criteria. If you're meeting the criteria and if they are sponsoring pharmacy technicians, then even if you have minimum points, I strongly recommend, I mean, I will strongly suggest that you have good chance of getting an invite. But if you think you're not meeting their criteria or they are not sponsoring pharmacy technicians, then probably you may think of moving somewhere else. If you have 1 year of experience in pharmacy, you must have that. So because without that, you can't get a skill assessment. So you must have that. So you can probably also look at Western Australia because I think this occupation is listed under Schedule 1. In Schedule 1, they invite people with lesser points. So I think Western Australia could be a good state, but I don't know about your state. Your state where you're living could also be a good option. So you may wait and see. Um, Vishal is asking what would be a better occupation in between computer network and system engineer or ICT security specialist for 190 Victoria. Most likely, I would say security specialist is better because we have seen in the last probably a year or 2 years, network engineers are given lesser priority compared to security specialist. And we have seen Victor is also focusing on that. Also, so many incidents are happening nowadays. So I think this occupation is prioritized. So if you have assessment under both of this occupation, it's better to apply through security specialist. Catherine is asking human resource advisor, offshore applicant, 75 points. What is the chance? Um, Human resource advisor offshore. So basically, it depends on mainly two things. We have seen for offshore applicants, state governments, they select people based on mainly two factors, which is how much have you scored in English test, and secondly, how many years of experience you have. So just based on your points, I cannot guess how many years of experience you have in the relevant field or how much have you scored in English. But I think you have less years of experience probably because you are having just 60 points by yourself. So probably you might have either seven each or you might have probably 5 years of experience, something like that. That's what I'm probably assuming. But basically, these are the two things they look at, your English skills and your years of experience in the relevant field. If, for an example, if you have at least 3 years of experience in the relevant field, plus at least seven bends in each in English test, then you have good chance. If you say I have eight bends each, I have 8 years or more years of experience, then your profile is the strongest profile. That is what you can possibly say. So you range your profile accordingly. That way you will get to know your possibility. Ragit is asking, I am software engineer in Western Australia with 95 points for 491. What are my chances? Your chances are good because they have better quota compared to last year, but they are still prioritizing other occupations in this year. So major quota might be allocated to those occupations. So that could become a bit tricky. But last year we have seen they were inviting people with 95 points. So you have good chance. It's just that probably initial few rounds you might have to wait for the occupations to get selected, which are priority occupations. Then you might have a possibility of getting an invite. Kashik is asking Baker chances of invite for 80 points in New South Wales, Western Australia. So if you are a baker, New South Wales, Western Australia both invite trade people. Um, for Western Australia, I think baker is under priority occupation list. If it is, then you have good chances of getting an invite with even this many points, because you won't have that much of competition under baker occupation. There are so many cooks and chefs, but then not bakers. So you have good chances. I'll just quickly see whether this occupation is on priority list as such. But basically, Western Australian state government and New South Wales both target people having higher points. So your target should be scoring more points. That will help you in whichever state you look at. Both state want you to be living in their state to have better chances. I mean, for New South Wales, it is a must requirement. For Western Australia, it is not a mandatory requirement to be living in Western Australia, but they give priority to people living in Western Australia. So I will strongly recommend, if you are looking at state nominations scoring higher points firstly, and secondly, if you are living in New South Wales, then you can only qualify, I mean, you can qualify for both Western Australia and New South Wales, but the chances will be probably higher for New South Wales, because Western Australia, they don't usually invite people living outside of Western Australia because they have sufficient people applying from Western Australia. If you move to Western Australia, you will lose out the eligibility for New South Wales. But probably when you see probably one or two rounds, then you will get to know how things work. But then for New South Wales, they are not prioritizing occupations like baker, but Western Australia is prioritizing. So it's better that you focus on Western Australia state nomination. Brijesh is asking, what are the chances of cafe manager with 75 points under South Australia working and living in outer regional for more than 2 years in the nominal occupation since last 22 months, and under which stream to apply? Okay. So basically, if you are a cafe restaurant manager having 75 points living in outer region area, I think most likely you will be invited, because you have been working for a long period of time. It also depends on when is your visa expiring, because we have seen they are prioritizing applications for people whose visa is expiring sooner. That's what we have seen last year, because they had a lesser quota. This year they still have a better quota. So I think you have very good chances of getting an invite. About the stream, you better choose outer regional stream, because in that they have lesser competition, so the chances will be higher. Money is asking, working in a new energy priority sector, but PT has 10 points at the moment. Total points are 90 for 190 and 85 for 189. So what are the chances? Okay. So basically, Victorian state government, they don't look at your points. They look at whether you are working in a skill level 1 to 3 occupation and how much you're earning from that job. So basically the earning, that's what they look at. Secondly, they look at whether your partner is skilled. If you're saying I mean, you have a partner and your partner is skilled, then you get a priority. If you're a single applicant claiming even 10 points, you don't get a priority for Victoria. And they look at your English. So if you're saying I have 7 each, if you score 8 each, you will get that priority. Also, they look at your years of experience in the same field. So based on these four factors, what we have seen is the first priority for them, that's what we have noticed in the last year, is your salary. If you're earning more than $100,000, then you are prioritized. If you have a skilled partner, you're claiming 10 points from your partner skills, not as a single applicant, you get a priority. These are the two factors. If you have both of these factors, most likely you will be invited. If you have out of these two, at least one factor, plus one factor out of relevant work experience of at least 1 year in Australia or 3 years experience overseas, or 8 bands in each if you have out of these two any one factor. So total two factors, or more factors if you have, then most likely you will be selected. That's what we have seen in the last year, and we are hoping the same even this year. Chintan is asking, what are the chances with 75 points under pharmacy technician Western Australia and 85 points with mechanical engineer under 19491? Okay, so pharmacy technician, if you're living in Western Australia, I think you have very good chances compared to mechanical engineer. So hope for the best for pharmacy technician. I think most likely you will be invited in that occupation group. Okay. Um, the next question is from Bigyan Raj. 65 points for 190 Western Australia civil engineering draft person. Any chances currently living in Queensland? Okay. If you're living in Queensland, chances are negligible, consider that way, because there are so many people who are moving to Western Australia and they have better points as well. So if you are living in Western Australia, you have good chances. I won't say high chances, but good chances because they are prioritizing such occupations. However, when you look at the number of people who applied under this occupation for Western Australia state nomination, there are probably, I think, around 1,000 applications, I guess. So chances will be difficult in that case. If you're looking at 491, then probably you might have good chances um, to get an invite for Western Australia state nomination. But then for both of the in both of the cases 19491, I strongly recommend you move to Western Australia. Aris is asking, does AITSL accept online distance learning offshore IT qualification? Does AITSL accept online distance learning offshore IT qualifications? So basically, online distance learning qualifications most likely will not be acceptable because it requires placement of 35 days, sorry, 45 days of teaching practice, supervised teaching practice in a school. So if it was not part of that qualification, then straight away you will not qualify. If your qualification had that 45 days of teaching practice, then most likely they will be considering your qualification. But I haven't seen much colleges offering this kind of qualification. So I can probably double check with the provider if they are able to clarify. But then we have seen most of the time when we ask them queries, they generally tend to respond saying you will have to apply for assessment first. But I don't see any problem if your qualification has 45 days of teaching practice, supervised teaching practice. The next question is from Sonali, who's asking, can you please tell me how to get a visa for Dama program? So Sonali, basically it is like you'll have to find an employer who has a labor agreement under Dama program, Dama labor agreement basically. And you are meeting the visa criteria as such for that particular occupation. The criteria depends on the particular Dama area. Also concessions are given, but basically you'll have to first see whether you have an employer who has a labor agreement, or if they don't have a labor agreement, whether there is a possibility that they can get a labor agreement. If it is possible, then you can apply. Most of the time it depends on the occupation level. If it is minor lower level occupation, then most of the time the experience requirement is 1 year full time. If it is a high level occupation, then the requirement is minimum 2 years of full time experience plus even relevant qualification they may ask for depending on the qualification, depending on the occupation. So occupation plays very important role, and secondly, the area where you are looking for this program plays the important role. I mean, based on that, I can tell you the requirement. If you ask me how to get a visa for Dama program, so basically you have to first find an employer as such. You have to first see whether your occupation falls under that Dama labor agreement. If it is, then you find an employer. If any employer is willing to sponsor you, then we can probably see whether you are meeting the criteria. And if employer is happy, then we can help you with the process. The Gush is asking, what are my chances to be invited at Western Australia 90 points electrical engineer? Electrical engineer 90 points, I think good possibility. Let me see last time when they were inviting people with how many points they were inviting. So probably you might have a better idea then. Um, It also depends under which category you are applying for, whether you are a graduate of Western Australia or you are just living there and applying for it. But I'll just talk about people who are living in Western Australia, but you haven't studied there. For them, the cutoff last year was 95 points. So you are saying that you have how many points? 90 points. Okay. So probably you are next in the queue. Once people having 95 points are all invited or higher than 95, then your chances are there that you will be invited. You also haven't mentioned whether you have 90 points, including the state nomination or excluding. If it is excluding, then you have better chances. The points I have talked about 95, that is including the state nomination points. So probably from there you will get to know. Sandeep is asking what are the chances of welfare worker for 190 Victoria, Western Australia. Both of the states, it is fine. Most likely you will be invited. So up to you to decide where you would like to stay. Whichever state you are living in, you can target that state for now. Sudeep is asking, I have 90 own points for welder living and working in Melbourne Metro with superior English salary of $55,000. Any chances I can get invite as my salary is not very high? Okay. Look, firstly, if you are looking at 190, we have seen Victorian state government, they were not inviting any trade occupations in the last financial year. This year, we don't know whether they are going to invite people. There is a seminar what they are doing at the end of this month. So probably at that time, we can have a better clarification. We'll be asking them about this question, whether they are going to select trade people this year. If they are going to, then you will have a good possibility because you won't have much competition under this occupation. So then most likely you will be invited. But then if they are not inviting any welder at all under 190 category, then you don't have a choice but to look for 491. For 491, you have very good chances. But if you're not happy to take 491, then better to move to some other state where they are inviting welders so easily. For an example, when we look at Western Australia, I think they will be inviting welders so easily. Just let me quickly check. Welder also, I can't see much data for even Western Australia for now. So won't be able to comment much on that. Let me see if any other data I have. Yeah, can't see much about welder, so can't tell you much about that for now. Probably we'll see the upcoming rounds and then we might have some better idea. Or if I, in between, if I'll search, if I get to know, then I'll tell you more about that. The next question is from Arpan, who's asking, chef with 80 points, any chances in Victoria? If it is, you are looking at 491, most likely you will be invited. 190, it will be difficult because we have seen they are not inviting chefs. Last year they have not selected. This year we don't know how they are going to do it for now. Supriya is asking, I'm an early childhood teacher with 70 points, including state nomination, no experience in Victoria. What are the chances? So for Victoria, they have mentioned that they are going to prioritize teachers this year. So I am hopeful that they will be inviting teachers with even 70 points. There are not that many people, one thing. Secondly, not every childcare teacher have good years of experience, basically because last year people who had even less than 1 year experience were selected. So I don't think there are people having 1 year experience in Victoria who will be prioritized. So basically, should not be a problem. So most likely you will be invited as long as they're inviting teachers, and they are saying that they will be prioritizing teachers. So most likely you will be invited. Kushan Boy is asking, what are the chances in this financial year in South Australia? Solid plaster, 3 years of experience, proficient English, 70 points, 189, 75 points, and 190, living in South Australia for 5 years. I think pretty much you will be, I mean, just waiting for an invite. That's what I can probably say. So high chances you will be invited. So just wait for it. If your visa is expiring sooner, probably you might have to look at employer sponsored visa to extend your stay, depending on what visa you're having. But I think you're very hopeful of getting an invite for South Australia. 189 invitation rounds since last 2 years are happening every 6 monthly basis. So next invitation round we are hoping for will be in December. If they are changing pattern from this year, it's not known for now. But otherwise, we are waiting for December. Hopefully for 189. So basically, you'll have to wait for December round. But I think probably before that, you'll be invited for South Australia. Noni is asking, I'm a civil engineering draft person, 70 points for 190, Western Australia or New South Wales. I think Western Australia is a better option. If you are, okay, 190 if you're looking at, and 70 points if it is including the state, it is a bit tricky because there are still good number of people applying for Western Australia state nomination. Probably once you see the first invitation round data, then you will have a better understanding how they are selecting people. So then you will have a better idea. For New South Wales, if you're living in New South Wales for now, I will recommend you keep staying in New South Wales. You see the data for Western Australia invitation round result, and then you make a call whether to move there. Okay. Because if you move now to Western Australia, or if you're living already in Western Australia, then better to stay there in Western Australia. Because if you move to New South Wales, then you will lose, in a way, eligibility for Western Australia. I mean, you won't It's not like you are not eligible for Western Australia, but they don't give you priority. If you are moving from New South Wales to Western Australia, and New South Wales says you have to be staying there for 3 months of time to qualify. So then they may say that you move to Western Australia, so you have to stay again for 3 more months. That could be a possibility. I mean, they may raise concern as such. So basically, better to wait and see how they are inviting, like Western Australia, how they're inviting people in the first invitation round, and then you make a call. Who is asking, how can I get registered nurse skill assessment? So basically, if you have a registration from APRA as a registered nurse, then you can apply for a skill assessment with authority called NMAC. If you haven't got a registration, then the first step is getting registration. For registration purpose, if you have studied a qualification from Australia or probably New Zealand, then it is very easy to get a registration, and then vice versa, you can get a skill assessment. If you have, if you don't have a qualification in Australia, New Zealand, for an example, if it is from some other country, depending on what other country, you might be required to do some MCQ and practical examinations. So for more information, you can anyway contact us. We can tell you accordingly. But first step is getting registration. If you're registered already, then it is easy to get a skill assessment from NMAC, the skill assessment authority. Adam is asking, what are the chances as an external auditor with 95 points working as an auditor, external auditor more than 1 year in regional New South Wales? If you're targeting 491, most likely you will be invited. If you're looking at 190, I'm not sure whether you have 95 points under 190 category or 491, but if you have 95 points under 190 category, you still have good chances of getting an invite, because not you don't have much competition under external auditor who have 1 year of experience. So that way it is still better. But if it is 95 points, including 15 points from the state for 491, then 190 and 189, forget about it. You focus on 491 only then. Vinayak is asking 491, I have 95 points, 190, I have 85 points. With superior English, residing in Sydney, EOI lodged for accountant, finance manager, management accountant, not working in the relevant field. What are the chances? Okay. So New South Wales, we have seen mainly they focus on the points, which is their first priority. Also, they look at your English skills, and thirdly, your years of experience in the relevant field. So if you are saying you have 85 points, including the state points for 190, I strongly recommend to better focus on 491, because 190, there are so many people having probably 90 or even higher points, and they are still waiting for an invite, and you don't have any relevant work experience, you don't get priority. We have seen that sometimes when your points are a bit lesser, 5-10 points lesser, but you have good years of experience in the relevant field, they are still able to invite people as such. But your points are also less, and your years of experience in the relevant field also you don't have anything. So basically, better to focus on 491. Sudeep is asking, I am a welder living and working in Melbourne metro area, having 90 points on my own. What are the chances of 190 Victoria? I have salary of 55K. Okay. So Sudeep, as we covered similar topic just now, basically 190 Victoria, they are not inviting trade occupations. Last year, we have not seen them inviting people. Even before that year, they were not inviting trade occupations. So looking at that, you may say that you don't have any chance at all. If in case this year they are saying we are going to invite trade occupations, then you will have very good chances. Otherwise, your focus should be on either any other state, moving to other state like New South Wales. If you are happy to move, you have visa for 6 months, you may move there. 6 months if you wait, there is very good possibility they will invite you for 190. Last year, we have seen people having just 65 points were also invited by New South Wales state government, but then you'll have to wait for 6 months. You'll have to move there 6 months. I mean, that is again considering the last year's requirement. This year, New South Wales, they have not yet announced the criteria, so we don't know. But hoping how every other state is also coming up with the same criteria, also knowing that the quota, what they have received, New South Wales, whatever they have received, which is more than last year. So I don't think they are going to make criteria difficult. Akshay is asking, what are the chances for chemist having 75 points living in Victoria and 485 points Western Australia? Just want to know how many chemists are invited in last 2 years. So basically about how many people were invited, let me see. I can probably tell you some details, but then basically chemists chemists were invited by Victorian state government Victorian state government, they don't look at points. If you have a skilled partner and if you have good English score, then consider they will invite you. If it is, we are looking at Western Australia, chemist. I can't see data for chemist for Western Australia. Let me see how many people they have invited probably in last 1 year. So you'll get some idea. Just give me a quick minute. But if you don't have eight each, basically, then most likely we are telling people to focus on 190. If you have a skilled partner, if you have good years of experience, you may even wait for 190, but otherwise it is a bit tricky. So if I look at chemist, yeah, few people were invited in the last financial year. 100 points, 90 points, 75 points also we saw some invites. Actually, it depends on the state though. Let me see whether it was Western Australia or it was Victoria who invited with this many points. No, it was some other state who invited people with even 75 points. Queensland invited actually people with 75 points um, in January last year. Sorry, this year. So depends on the state, but Queensland, they ask you to work there. Then only you can qualify. So that's the thing. But for Victoria and Western Australia focus heavily on the points. Victorian state government, they focus on your partner skills, your salary, English, and years of experience. So if you have two of these factors, then you probably have a possibility of 190 Victoria. Otherwise, you should focus on 491. Omer is asking any chances for offshore medical lab scientist for 65 plus 15 for 491 and 70 for 190 and 65 for 189. Okay. 189, there is a possibility if they conduct the next round in December, whenever it is, I think there is a possibility you might get it. Even for other state nominations, I think you have a good possibility of getting an invite. 190 could be a bit tricky, but 491 should be easier for you to get it. So you have good hopes for 491 and probably 189. That's what you can say. But I still recommend if you can work on the points, then it might help you. That is mainly English. If you work on that, then that will probably help you. I mean, most likely it will help you. Ranjit is asking, can you tell something about Child Visa 101? So something means if you can probably clarify what you would like to know. But generally, I'll tell you how it works. So if you are saying that you have a child who is not holding permanent residency, and you would like to apply for 101 visa, if you prove that one parent, at least the child's parent, is holding either Australian permanent residency or citizenship, then you can apply for a child visa. Basically, you have to prove the relationship with the child, with the parent, and child is required to do medical examination. Basically, these are the only two things which you have to prove, and you can apply for the visa. But again, if you'd like to know in particular any particular thing, then you may contact us and we can guide you through. Mary Jonas is asking, if I get sponsored by employer, can I still lodge applications for 491 190? Certainly, yes, you can do so. So you can have parallelly both applications, 491 190 and employer sponsored visa applications. Once you get even employer sponsored visa, then also you can keep working on your 190 or 491 application, or you can even apply for both depending on the state. Victoria, for example, they don't allow you to apply for both applications at the same time, but you can apply for both 194 912 to other states. So if you're eligible for that state, but certainly, yes, you can do so. Tharindu is asking, currently residing in regional Victoria, working as a chef, more chances in Western Australia or Victoria this year. If you're working as a chef in regional, most likely you will be invited. So no point moving anywhere. What is the criteria for Victoria this year? So as long as you are living in regional Victoria, you are anyway saying that you are, okay, you are mentioning currently residing in regional Victoria and working as a chef. So You haven't mentioned where you're working. If it is regional Victoria where you're working as a chef, then you are eligible to apply for Victoria State sponsorship. About the chances, most likely you'll be invited, but still they focus on your English skills, your years of experience in the relevant field, whether you have a skilled partner, how much you're earning. If you have one of the factors for regional 491 state nomination, they want people earning more than 80K, they are prioritized. If you don't have 80K salary, it is still fine. But if you have that, you get a priority. If your partner is skilled, your partner have a skill assessment, 6 each both, or at least 6 each, you still get a priority. 7 each, 8 each, if you're scored English, you get a priority. 1 year of experience, if you have, pretty much everyone have that. So not a priority. If you have more years of experience, that might help you. But even if you don't have any of these things, then also I think you have very good chance of getting an invite from Victoria even. So no point moving in Western Australia for now. Rana is asking, I'm electronics engineer working in my field for more than 1 year in Perth. Filed my 49185 points, 190 points. How do you see my chances getting invitation? 491, you might have some chance. 190, I think it's very difficult. You haven't mentioned you studied there or what, but then points are very less and they are heavily focusing on the points. So that's why it is looking a bit difficult to get an invite. Last time they selected people with 95 points. So if you have not studied there, if you have studied there a master's degree, then they were selecting people with 85 points. So 85 was the minimum cutoff. If you have studied a qualification which is, I mean, 2 years, if you have studied, they also invited some people with even 65 points. So that is there is a possibility. But if you are a graduate, then there is a possibility, graduate of Western Australia. If you haven't studied in Western Australia, then the chances are limited. They have a better quota. So if in case the cutoff come down, let's see. But otherwise the cutoff was, I think, 90, 85, 95. That is what I just read. Um, yeah, 95 was the cutoff if you have not studied there. If you have studied there, then the cutoff was even lesser. So depending on that, you may make a call. If you have a longer visa, you may probably plan to study there for 2 years. That might help you later, but then it's like 2 years of more commitment, you know. So instead, it's better if you are interested in moving somewhere else, if you are getting a job, or if any other state is sponsoring electronics engineering easily, like 491 Victoria, if you have a job and stay in regional, the job is not required to be in the same field. Even if you work as a cook, for example, in regional Victoria, there is a possibility that you get 491 from Victoria. So you may make a call accordingly, or wait for 1 or 2 invitation rounds and then you may decide. Henry is asking, how high is my chances of getting an invite for 90 points, including state points for 4 and Western Australia, 1 year experience, software engineer and developer programmer. Okay. 90 points, they were inviting people with 95 points. If you are a graduate of Western Australia, you might have a chance. If you are not a graduate of Western Australia, it is difficult. It is not impossible, but it is a bit difficult in a way because the cutoff last year was 95. So you're still closer. It's just that difficult in terms that they are prioritizing some certain occupations. So if major quota is used by them under those categories, then the cutoff for IT occupation will still be higher, you know. So that's why it is a bit tricky to say for now. Meet is asking, what about 18975 points chemist and civil engineering draft person? We are happy also 491 190 anywhere. What will we need to do without a job? We are still 3 years visa left, 2 years left. Chemist skill assessment, 2 years left for skill assessments expiry. Okay. You haven't mentioned where you are living, but then if you have 75 points under 189, then I recommend, if you are not in Western Australia, better to move to Western Australia. Most likely they will sponsor you under civil engineering draft person. Probably 190 or 491. Any one of these, most likely they will sponsor you. If not 190, most likely 491. So that is a good option. You should move there because not many people have 90 points, including states 15 points under 491. Afroz is asking, offshore mechanical engineer 190, 80 points. What Victoria and South Australia, what are the chances? High offshore experience at 15 years. I should go with 190 or 490, please advise. Look, you may try for 190, but we have seen it is a bit difficult for most of the states. If you are saying you have good English score, at least 7 each. If you have 8 each, then I will strongly recommend targeting 190 for now. If you are saying that you have 7 each, you may wait for a few rounds for 190. But if you think it is becoming difficult, you may then decide to change it to 491. Um, Otherwise, you have good chances for at least 491. 190, there is a possibility because you are saying you have 15 years of experience. We have seen for offshore people who have 15 years of experience, I mean, more than 8 years of experience, were prioritized by the state governments. So you may try for 190 for probably a few rounds and then see how it goes. But then if you are going to wait, then the number of places remaining for this year will also go down, and that might increase the difficulty level getting an invite for even 491. So you have to make a call, but I think probably in one round, 2 rounds, you might have a better idea. But before that, you may try for 190 for first 2 rounds. If you think it is becoming difficult, you may change it to 491. And if you're happy with 491, then that is the best way. Darshan is asking, hello, is there any chances of an invite in Victoria, civil engineering occupation, total 75 points. 491, yes, you have a good chance. 190, it is difficult. So better to focus on 491. Yatin is asking 95 plus 5 points in general accountant in Victoria with superior English, 3+ years of experience in accounting single. I think you have very good chances for 190. Wait for a few rounds, but we have seen similar profiles, and major people were invited in the last year. So I think you have a good possibility. So wait. It's just that their first priority is for the people who have $100,000 salary or who have a skilled partner. You are single. You haven't mentioned about the salary. So that are the two most priority they are looking at. If you have one of that factor, then you have very good chance. If you don't have that, then you have to wait for the people who have that. Then you will be invited. Mohammed is asking, I'm a secondary English school teacher, secondary English teacher based in New South Wales. I've been working as a full-time permanent teacher since last May. Already received a positive skill assessment outcome as well as positive employment assessment outcome from this. Lodged my EUI in June 2024. I have 75 points for 180 and 80 for 190. Any updates on state nomination? So I think you have very good chances. There are not so many secondary school teachers, so competition is very less. And they are anyway prioritizing teachers. New South Wales, I don't know about this year because they haven't announced the criteria, but if they are prioritizing teachers, should be fine. Even if they don't prioritize teachers, but as long as they're inviting teachers, then you should be invited. Otherwise, if you think once they start inviting people or once they announce the criteria, if they're very clear that they are not giving priority to teacher, if in case, you may decide to move to some other state like Victoria, they are inviting teachers very easily. And secondary school teachers, the competition is very less. So you may target accordingly. But you may wait for New South Wales to announce the program and then you may contact us and then we can guide you accordingly. Kevin is asking, I'm a diesel mechanic living in regional Victoria, 65 points, own points. What are the chance? Okay. If you are looking at 491, then chances are too high. So just keep waiting for it. I mean, wait for it. Most likely you will be invited. Preet is asking, I am a chef, 190 Western Australia, 85 points. What are the chances? 190, 85 points. Let's see. Yeah, good possibility. You will be invited. We have seen last year they were selecting people with even 75 points. So good possibility that you will be invited. So yeah, wait for them to start inviting people. The couple is asking, can we directly apply for 190 or 491 after directly completing diploma in construction development? If it is advanced diploma of civil construction you are referring to, then yes, you can apply. Directly means you still have to apply for a skill assessment. Basically, what people say, I mean, what they say by saying that you have done advanced diploma of civil construction, then you can straight away apply for PR. So basically, you still need a skill assessment, but there is no experience requirement to get a skill assessment. So once you are done with this qualification, you are required to apply for a skill assessment. Once you get your skill assessment, then you can apply for 190 or 491, or you can apply for both for Western Australia or whichever state you are looking at. You have to see if you are meeting that state's criteria, then you can apply accordingly. But yes, you can apply for skill assessment. Once you get it, you can apply for 190, 491. But then it depends on the state. So if state says we want you to be working in the state for 6 months in the relevant field, then only you are eligible, then you have to wait. But if that state is not asking for it, like Western Australia, they don't ask, Victoria, they don't ask. So then you can apply for Victoria or Western Australia accordingly. But then you have to move to that state. Madhushan is asking, can I do a part-time job apart from full-time job on 482 visa? No, you cannot do it. 482 visa, if you have it, then you have a visa condition that you have to work with that employer. So you cannot work. If in case you are not working with the primary employer, then if you'd like to, then you can work for 6 months. If you lost your job and looking for another employer, that way you can do a job. But while you are already holding 482 visa, working with that employer who has sponsored you, you cannot work anywhere else. Goma Bania is asking any chances with 75 points for RN, including state from from Western Australia. If you have 1 year of experience, you have very good chances. If you don't have 1 year of experience, still good chances. If you have 1 year experience, most likely you will be invited. If you don't have that, I think it is still the similar case, just waiting for invitation round to happen. Harris is asking 95 points business analyst for New South Wales, 1 year experience, but what are the chances? I think you have very good chances. Wait for a few rounds, but you should be invited because they prioritize IT occupations. And 95 points is a good point score. You haven't mentioned whether it is including states points or excluding, but if it is excluding, most likely you will be invited. If it is including states points, you might have to wait for a few more rounds to happen. Adam is asking, how much is it normally costing for 407 visa? Okay. So for 407 visa, there are three stages. The first application is called sponsorship application. The sponsorship application fee is $420. The second application is called nomination application. The nomination application fee is $170. And the third application is called visa application. That is what you have to apply, which is $415. This is the official fee, plus on top of that, whatever agent charge, that is what you have to pay. The sponsorship nomination related cost must be paid by the employer. So anything related to sponsorship nomination, agent fees, whatever it is, needs to be paid by the employer. Visa application fee of $415 plus agent fees if you are going through agent. That is what your employer can pay or you can pay. That depends on you and your employer. But basically, the official fee is somewhere around $1,000 altogether, nomination, visa, and sponsorship. Altogether, it's around $1,000. Plus, agent fee ranges in between probably around $4,000 to $8,000, depending on the work, depending on the agent, for an example, depending on the experience of the professional. So that's pretty much it for the day. If you have any questions, you can still post it there. We will comment it there. If you would like to discuss in person, you may call us. You may call any of our office, nearby office, and then they will try to help you with your queries. If you would like to have a face-to-face consultation, you can book an appointment accordingly, and we'll be very happy to help you with your queries. That's pretty much it for the day. Have Wish you a very good weekend and all the best for the people who have asked about when they will be invited. I think this year the state has been given more quota compared to last year, so I think it will be a better year compared to last year. So all the best to all the applicants and enjoy your rest of the